And we are live. Hello and welcome to this special edition episode of Beyond a Doubt, the Picard edition. We'll talk about that in a second. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Cliff Thomas. Cliff, how you doing this evening?
Live long and prosper.
You know, it's funny. I'm actually pulling up my notes for this episode, so I wasn't actually looking at the video feed. So when you paused there for a second, I thought something had gone wrong. And I was about to panic and say, what's going on? But anyway.
It's dramatic pause.
Oh, shoot. I can't find my notes. I don't know where they are. Oh, wait. I know where they are. Do I know where they are? I think I know where they are. Yeah, there they are. Anyway, so this is a special edition of the Beyond a Doud because we don't have a Beyond. We had a Beyond. We had a Beyond person scheduled, but scheduling conflicts got crazy and we couldn't make it work. We will have that person on again, or not again, for the first time in the near future, I hope. But for now, we're going to talk about we're going to bring on our special guest, Jean-Luc Picard, even though he's not actually here. Although I bet a lot of people just got really excited there for a second. No, we're going to talk about Star Trek Picard because Star Trek Picard season 3 just ended, and me and Cliff have some feelings about it, and we wanted to talk about those. I think the feelings are largely positive. Although I will say I do have a couple of I put on my reviewer's hat for the episode as well. So I'm giving it probably a solid 8, maybe 8.5, because there are just some things that I didn't agree with. But anyway, so first of all, before we go too much farther, we need to say spoilers. If you haven't watched Star Trek Picard and this is a thing that you care about, then I would suggest you pause this episode, go watch that, and then come back and hit play because we're going to talk about things that happened specifically in the last episode, because that's kind of where most of my issues come from. But just overall, it's important to know that there's going to be some spoilish kind of stuff going on here. And we're going to talk about it until my voice gives out, which may not be all that long. We'll see.
Yeah, you do. I was going to ask if you were a little scratchy there, if it was just my
I've been scratchy since the freaking cold that I had like 3 months ago. My voice has never fully recovered, and that's because my insurance is a bunch of dickheads. But anyway, so I know what will fix my voice.
If only we lived in the 24th century, in the next generation where healthcare is free and
true story.
It's a human right.
True story. Side rant. I was watching the Wrexham game yesterday. Wrexham is Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's football club in Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I watched Welcome to Wrexham. I kind of became a little bit of a fan, and so I've been following Wrexham for this entire season. And Wrexham yesterday actually won the championship for their league, which means they are getting automatically promoted to the next league up as of next season, which is a very big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah,
I know enough from watching Ted Lasso to know that's a big deal. So.
Right, exactly. And so I was watching this last game because it was a big deal, and so I was on this website that had a chat board. And the chat board turn was largely folks from England and Wales and whatever watching the game, but there were a few Americans there, and they were talking about how the team is owned by an American owner, and so they got into talking about Americans, and like this one guy, girl, I was anonymous, but this one person said this thing that I think just sums up Americans like so perfectly, and they just said, imagine having to pay for healthcare. Right. and then like right after that, they said, imagine going to school just to get shot at. And I'm just like, yep, you have just summed up America pretty much right there. That is
yeah, that's something else I have feelings about with my wife also being a teacher as well as having a student in school. So, but
ditto and ditto. Anyway, we're not here to talk about failing healthcare systems or um, you know, weapons where they don't belong, which is to say anywhere. But we are here to talk about Star Trek Picard. So it would be fair to say that this was the best season of Star Trek Picard of all 3 seasons. Very low bar, but still
Yes.
the best season.
I mean, there are definite reasons for that, which I'm sure we'll touch on though. But yeah, I agree. By far
Yeah.
the best of the 3 seasons.
It was arguably, of all the new Trek that's come out, there are Easter eggs here and there,
Oh,
but this one was just, I would say 60% nostalgia play and the rest 40% maybe actual story.
I'm, can we talk first of all about
Yes.
first acknowledging that this was largely fan service?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh
I
yeah.
acknowledge it. I'm here for it. And
I'm perfectly fine with it.
yeah, the first thing I was thinking about, just on whole, the fact that this season happened the way it has, the fact that it was any good at all, and it is number one, I think, rare in any sort of serialized, show with this much baggage, this much history, and then especially now with actors that, because they have been in, films that have made money, this expensive to produce, right? And so
Right.
I can't think of any other series except for Star or like franchise besides Star Wars
Yeah.
that has this much history and was able to produce a show with the way it was done this season, with everything that it had in it. I it's so rare, and I'm so happy it got made, because
Yeah.
I feel like it's super rare for that to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And the bringing together of the reuniting of the old cast,
Right.
putting on the old characters and and in some cases literally old. But it was just it was fun to see what all these people were like, 20, 30 years later, but also it was fun to see them all together again. Like the first season we had Riker and Troy, the second season, and Data's been all over the
Mhm.
friggin' place.
Well,
Um,
Brent Spiner has been in it every
right,
single
right,
season in some form. Yeah.
right. And so like it was fun to see them. Wesley Crusher made an appearance at the end of season 2, which
Hmm.
by the way, I was there for. Like I know a lot of people were just like, oh, that was so stupid. I
No,
dug it.
it
I
it
dug it.
it finally, you know, because when he left with the Traveler in the original Next Generation series,
Hmm.
I mean, that was it. And in fact, and you never heard what happened to him. And then he was actually part of the well, it was, I guess it was Nemesis, when Riker and Deanna Troi got married, and
Oh, was he there?
he has been cut out of it though. Yes.
Oh, he was there, but he cutting room floor.
Yeah, his scenes were cut out of it. So that
Uh,
would have been, I thought about that after him reappearing, just the fact that how weird that would have been, like, and he was with Starfleet again.
oh,
So it
okay.
was,
Yeah,
yeah,
that would
he
have
was
been
in a
really
dress
weird.
uniform, and I don't remember what his rank was, but that just would have been strange. Like, I guess he just decided he didn't like being a demigod. Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that definitely would have been definitely very odd. This was a much better way to kind of
Right.
like give him his hey, Wesley's here too kind of
His
kind of
flowers.
story. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so overall the season was very good. I have some questions about, the whole Picard having a son thing with Beverly Crusher, especially like I don't know. It just kind of seemed like in the series. I know like at the end of the series they were married for a time, but then they like split up, and then she was on the the medical the what was the name of the ship? Um, what was the name of her ship in All the Good Things? It was a medical ship
I thought she was still in All Good Things. I thought she was still the. Oh, you're talking about in the future.
in the
I don't.
future. Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pascal, something like that, or
It was. I want to
no,
say it
not
was
Pat.
something medical
It's the
wise.
it's the person who came up with penicillin.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I
Well,
believe
anyway,
so. What is her name? It begins with a P. Oh well, we'll
yeah,
figure it.
the P name definitely sounded familiar. We'll figure it out. There's
It wasn't
probably people.
Pascal, but it's something like that.
Yeah, comment down below if you remember
Right.
what we're
It's a
talking about.
French
Anyway,
name. I know it's French, and I
okay,
know
okay.
it's yeah. Okay.
Anyway, we have to Google it. Anyway,
Pasteur.
Pasteur, I think it was. That definitely sounds familiar.
So then
Anyway,
it's not the person who invented penicillin, but still,
right.
it was
Anyway,
a P name
I thought
in
it was.
French and medical.
I thought it was kind of weird that she was not doing that this time around, because like I'm not sure where like that future and the future that we saw in Picard. I'm not sure like where in the timeline those fit. Was it was
Well, that was also a hypothetical future too. So
right,
like
right,
one timeline of
yeah.
many possible. Right.
So anyway, I thought that was kind of weird. I thought it was kind of weird that they had a kid and like 30 years, really, you can't send him a subspace message. Like, by the way, and I know they explained like I couldn't, blah blah blah. But anyway, that whole thing seemed a little weird. But again, I was there for it. It was fine.
Well, so here's what makes me laugh. Right.
Okay.
It is. First of all, if you understand just the sort of, I guess you'd call it not really politics with inside the showrunner and the feedback that both fans and I guess the ratings got for I can't remember the showrunner's name.
Terry
No,
Matalas.
Terry Matalas is like the producer and who had so anyway, the guy who I'm talking about was also the showrunner. Alex Kurtzman. That's right. Yeah. So Kurtzman was also, and had a big deal had a lot of input on the first 2 seasons of Picard. He's also the creator or co-creator, something like that, for Discovery.
For like most of the other Star Trek, I think CBS Star Trek universe.
Right. However, Terry Matalas had creative control over Strange New Worlds and now the 3rd season of Picard.
Ah, okay.
And you can see the clean break.
So we like Matalas, we don't like Kurtzman.
Yes.
I think that's what it boils down to.
And I know you don't enjoy cartoons, but I believe Terry Matalas is also the creator or has a lot to do with
Prodigy.
It's either
or
Prodigy
Lower Decks
or Lower Decks. I can't remember, one of the two. I think it's Prodigy, but
okay.
Some of the more well received. Actually it would make sense because Prodigy has a lot of Voyager stuff, and I think he got his start with either got his start with Voyager or Enterprise, like and the so
okay.
Terry Matalas has been around in Star Trek for a while. In fact, I'm going to open up IMDb because I'm going to be referencing characters, and I want to make sure I get actor's name.
While you're doing that, I think it's also important for new people who are stopping by. Welcome. We are not
Absolutely.
Star Trek. This is not a Star Trek podcast. Okay. So, if it sounds like we're stumbling around a lot of stuff that we shouldn't be stumbling around, fine, whatever. This is not usually our gig. We just happen to enjoy Star Trek Picard. And so, and you know what? Honestly, regular listeners, this may happen again, not for Picard, maybe for something else, but it's real solid. It's real solid possibility. Now before we get too far afield, I want to talk about specifically like I said, overall, I think it was a win. I think it was a good season. I think it was fine. But I have some questions. I have some concerns. I have some feedback. I have some qualms. And most of those qualms, I would say, in fact, probably all of the qualms are episode 9 and 10 only,
the last 2 episodes
and forward, which are the last two episodes. And this is where we're going to get into the spoilers, folks. So if you haven't turned it off by now, turn it off. So we find out throughout season 3 that the changelings are actually the bad guys. What's her name from Quentin Tarantino's movie? I forget her name. She's the big bad guy flying the big starship that's attacking in the first part of the series.
Right.
We find out that she's a changeling. Everybody on the ship is a changeling. In fact, there are changelings that have infiltrated Starfleet all over the place.
Yeah, from the bottom to the highest levels.
Right, exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so they are all over the damn place. But in season, I don't know if it was episode 8 or episode 9, it was one of the two, we find out that they're not even the big bad, because the big bad is none other than the Borg. And
Which
okay,
they had said, and so it's kind of funny, just in
yeah,
in previewing season 3, you know how that goes. They slowly leaked out the fact that all of the actors would be coming back. Then they
sure.
showed shots of the original cast from the Next Generation as they are
Amanda
as,
Plummer, by the way.
yes.
Yeah.
So so she was it Vax?
I honestly don't even know what her character name was. I did not care. She was just the bad guy. I just knew that.
And I thought she was a great villain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But what I was going to say is that when they previewed this season, they did say that they were bringing back an old enemy. And so when they brought back the changelings, I mean, we know that the Enterprise fought in the Dominion Wars because of, I think they showed some of that in First Contact, and the fact that Worf had been fighting with the
Defiant.
The Defiant, right? Anyway,
yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, I guess it's the changelings, and then there was definitely something else, or there was just that, that the face that kept appearing, that
the Moriarty was there a bunch. They kind of threw that out there and like, we're bringing back Moriarty. We're like,
well,
okay.
And so, but what my point being, when they said they were bringing back an old enemy, when it ended up being not just the changelings, but ultimately the Borg, I'm like, oh, you sneaky devils, because you let us think it was the changelings forever.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, my big problem with episodes 9 and 10 is the Borg didn't have to be there. In fact, there were a lot of reasons why the Borg shouldn't have been there, because most of season 2 was dealing with the fact that the Borg Queen was like stuck in the 21st century, and she had merged with Dr. What's-Her-Name, again, a character I didn't really care about, don't even know her name. I think I call her Dr. Alice in my notes, but I might even be thinking of Alice Kriege, who played the voice of the Borg Queen. But anyway, or however you pronounce her name. But anyway, like, they established that, like, they were the Borg, and the Borg were working with the Federation at the end of season 2 to like stand guard over this portal and like blow up anything that came through. So like,
well, that is what
okay.
Is so,
we're done with the Borg.
I know.
Like,
if you want to talk about, and not just the last 2 episodes, but in general, and this is why I brought up the different show, the different creative for season 3. I mean, they threw out so much. You see nothing of that merged Borg Queen. You see nothing of the Vulcan, or I'm sorry, the not the Vulcan, but the Romulan, who was kind of like a second son to Picard.
right.
He was really into sword fighting and had entered service on.
Oh yeah, what happened to that guy?
I can tell you what happened to him. We'll go just very quickly. So and I only know a lot of this. I have been watching Elnor, exactly. Yeah. I have been watching a lot of like the this channel that does just showed me all the Easter eggs that were in season 3, and so I would have never have picked up on this. You really have to know all the details and remember everything. But so he had entered into Starfleet Academy, and eventually remember he was brought back by Q. Because he had died in the second series originally, and then he said, "Here's a little something, a final gift," and then it turned Eleanor was now in Starfleet and was serving and had gone through Starfleet Academy. Anyway, but so he is a character you didn't see him all in season 3 until it's either episode 9 or episode 10 when the ships are being taken over by.
Right.
The 25 and under, basically ensigns and lieutenants, the people who
the
are
kids.
25 and under, the kids. And remember that one ship?
No.
Was able to, well, you'll remember because they all turned on it basically and blew it up.
Okay.
And that was Eleanor's ship. So they literally killed. Yes, they killed.
They whacked him again.
Yes. I don't remember the name of the ship, but that was the ship he said he was serving on. So
you know what? I'll tell you what. That was Terry Matalas, just like completely destroying Alex Kurtzman's dreams.
Yes.
Like, your dreams are on that ship. Guess what? Boom.
Bye.
Yeah.
And I.
Oh my God.
I never really liked that character anyway, so I didn't have any emotional investment in him. It just, I mean, but think about it then. Picard got his real son.
Oh,
He didn't
right.
need Eleanor anymore, so bye.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although, if you'll recall my Beyond a Doubt episode with Joe Malazzi, I told him specifically, like, I get a kick out of characters who, like, their entire job is just to, like, beat people up and, you know, kick ass. Like,
Right.
I love characters that do that. Like, that is their whole purpose in being. And Elnor was another one of those to me. So I really liked Elnor. I was looking forward to the next time he was going to kick somebody's ass. But apparently he's on a ship that got blown up, so that'll never happen. Anyway,
Exactly. And
so
so yeah, I thought
yeah,
that was really interesting. Yeah, but I mean, that just shows you the hard cut that Terry Matalas was willing to do, the hard break with Picard season 1 and 2, because there was a strong contingent of, especially the Next Generation fans, who did not really enjoy the first 2 seasons.
no, really,
Mm-hmm.
no. Hang on. You know, I'm really glad I'm sitting down right now, because otherwise, man, I don't even want to think about what would have happened when you dropped that news bomb on me. Anyway, so, like, I have some notes here. My big thing is that the Borg didn't need to be there, and I thought we already were done with the Borg. I thought the Borg were hanging out by a portal, blowing crap up, and not assimilating people anymore. That's where we left them at the end of season 2. And then, but no, here's the Borg Queen, and I'm really lonely, and I'm going to assimilate everybody. The Borg Queen was destroyed in the 21st century at the end of First Contact. She was dead. They cracked her spine in half, and all of her little lights turned off.
Well,
Like,
there's not just one Borg Queen though. The Borg Queen is basically can be regenerated, as you saw. You know that she was killed in First Contact.
yeah,
So, but there was another one.
there was.
Yes,
When?
in Picard.
Well, right. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
So she is not one physical entity. I think she's basically just biogenerated.
Okay.
But is like one voice within the collective. That's like the
No,
center
you are
point,
very.
right? So then it can be
You have a good
regenerated.
point there.
And I wouldn't be surprised if not every Borg ship, but a lot of different Borg ships
Have a queen.
Have a queen, right? Exactly.
Okay, all right. You know what? That's fair. That is a very that's something that I didn't take into account. You're right. If they already killed the Borg Queen, how could the Borg Queen be in season 2, let alone season 3? Fair. Okay, I will concede that point. But my point is still, the Borg didn't have to be there at all. This whole conspiracy could have been the changelings have infiltrated Starfleet. They've risen up into the ranks. They got to Commander what's her name from Best of Both Worlds, which, by the way, is still the worst cliffhanger in Star Trek history. I'm just going to leave that right there. Anyway,
from
Commander
from
Shelby,
the Best of Both
Commander
Worlds?
Shelby.
Oh,
yeah.
that was very nice to see her destroyed.
Get killed? Yes, I
Yes.
liked it too. Anyway, no, they could have like infiltrated Starfleet, gotten up to Commander Shelby, and said, "You know what would be a great idea? And you were a Borg chick, so you might dig this. What if we can make all the ships work together in like a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, collective. That would be a good idea." And then she's like, "You know what? I studied the Borg. I kind of know how they did that. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that." Then they could have said, "Okay, this is what we're going to do." They didn't need Jack. They didn't need the magical powers that he had of like zipping into other people's bodies and making them do stuff. They didn't need any of that. They could have just had the changelings going to Freedom Day, whatever the hell it was called, Frontier Day. They could have had the changelings go to Frontier Day, take over all the ships, start to blow up Earth, and then here comes the Enterprise to the rescue, blah, blah, blah. They did not need the Borg. The Borg were absolutely unnecessary. The Borg were extraneous.
I'm going to counter your point by saying this. The show is called Star Trek Picard, and who, number one, was the ultimate foil, other than Q, who was more of a gray area kind of person for Picard. It was the Borg. And so I liked that this brought a finality to what Picard says 35 years ago, etc., etc. Yes, it's
is it finality? Because apparently there's hundreds of Borg queens out there, so I don't think this is a finality.
Well, so what I was going to talk about is this is, it's interesting that they actually gave a little bit of empathy to, or a little bit, right, for fans to be empathetic with both the Borg and the Changelings, because I mean, essentially, the Federation committed genocide twice.
Sure, but only because they were gonna genocide us. Let's be honest.
Well, but I'm saying
It was self-defense genocide.
ethics. I mean, and I mean, you can make the same argument that you make in some way with like the United States in World War II dropping an atomic bomb on Nagasaki and was it? I know
Hiroshima.
And Hiroshima, right?
Yeah.
I mean, could they have
That's
won
fair.
the war without that? I'm not commenting on like being political about it. I'm just saying very similar.
The argument could be made that
and morally ambiguous things that they did, right?
Sure.
So it's and they actually bring that up and discuss it. So the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. But then is that just Federation or Alpha Quadrant?
Here's the thing.
It's like, I don't know.
If I was in like a Saw-like scenario where I was holding a gun to somebody's head and they were holding a gun to my head, and the Saw guy says, "Whoever pulls the trigger first, bang! I'm pulling the trigger. I don't give a shit." So when it and this is obviously that on a genocidal scale. Sure, at the end of the day, I would rather be alive to debate it than to be dead and be debated about. So,
but then you see that how that comes together as their common enemy.
Sure.
In the end, so that was really interesting, and it brought together those plot lines though. So that was, and ultimately it was the experimentation that the Borg that the Federation did on the Changelings, genetic experimentations that enabled the takeover of their of the Federation to be done. So again, there's consequences to your actions that are unforeseen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what I guess my point here would be that it wasn't like Star Wars where it's just black and white, good and evil. It's there is that Star Trekkiness to it, that
Star Trekkiness
where it's there's a lot of gray areas, there's a lot of more thought into it, and I like that about it.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I just didn't think it had to come back to the Borg. I honestly, can I just say it? I'm sick of the Borg. I am really sick of the Borg through like all the Voyager crap and through all the movies and through the Best of Both Worlds being the worst cliffhanger in Star Trek history. I am just, and I don't know that I've ever said this on the podcast. And I think maybe it's worth explaining what I mean by the Best of Both Worlds being the worst cliffhanger.
I'd like to know that too, because I still remember that and being like very anticipatory for the
and actually season. I need to clarify by saying the worst cliffhanger payoff of Star Trek history. Okay, so like imagine it's 1986. A 10-year-old Adam is leaning on his elbows, watching the TV, watching Locutus of Borg step forward. "I am a Borg now, and I will destroy all of you." Cut over to Riker. Shelby standing next to him, not really sure what to do. Fire. And this big sweeping cinematic arch of like going all around the room, zooming in on Commander Riker, and he says, "Fire."
Mm-hmm.
Fade to black. Now you have to sit for 3 months and watch crappy reruns while you wait to see. I can't believe
last Riker time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Riker just killed Picard. Okay, so now September rolls around. You're like, "Oh my God, Picard is dead. I can't wait to see what happens now." And again, they replay the whole thing. "I'm Locutus. We're going to kill all you. Sweep over to Riker, Mr. Data, fire," and then the Enterprise revs up. Rum, 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 rum. And the Borg are like, "Seriously?" And then they just leave. Like, and like the Borg, like they've got a little ant on their hand, and they could just go, and the show's over. But they're just like, yeah, that wasn't scary at all. Okay, bye. And like they just leave. It was so incredibly disappointing, especially like the build up, and especially the fact that we had to wait 3 months to see it. This wasn't binged, people. This was like actual linear TV back in the 1980s. We didn't even have freaking cable. I mean, some people had cable. We didn't have cable.
I didn't
but
have cable.
Like, oh my God, it was so disappointing. It was like literally like, what's behind door number 2? It's a used Yugo from 1978. Like, it was the worst payoff ever. It was so bad. And everyone's like, what's the best Star Trek episode ever? Best of both worlds. No, it's not. Anyway, I'm done.
So I'll, if you said we're talking about the last 2 episodes primarily. So
yeah. Actually, I think I'm pretty much done talking about the last 2 episodes.
Has there ever been a show with a longer burn to everything, just like a slower burn all the way to just everything happening at once in the last 2 episodes? Like those two.
Yes. Star Trek Picard season 2, Star Trek Picard season 1.
It's true. It's true.
That was really freaking slow burns.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. But I'm talking about in terms of the plot line. Like, you basically had, and I will say, first of all, Star Trek Picard season 3, so dark, so like, there was no, like, they didn't even give you nuggets of hope most of the time. It was just, I mean, how helpless could you feel? Especially, I mean, the peak of that was when I can't remember the name of Vox's ship, but the up to that point was the villain, and the Shrike, yes.
Yeah,
and just the futility of the Titan trying to escape and going through the transportation just to come back. Oh, it was like a cat. Back. It was like a cat playing with a mouse.
It was really terrible.
And you're already, in such a horrible situation. Your ship is basically on fumes, almost on just like emergency life support. And
don't talk about fuel, please, God, don't talk about fuel, because then you're going to bring back Last Jedi nightmares. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh God. As far as the fan base, yeah. Anyway. So anyway, just that overwhelming sense of futility, and then to me, like the first like 6 or 7 episodes felt like that, with some stuff here and there, but I mean, it felt so hopeless. And then you're sort of with the fact that these people were almost like not superheroes, but not that they were infallible, but Picard used to get in fights, and usually like a judo chop to the shoulder.
Judo chop. No, the double-handed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, hits.
It's just all of them now to be, and at the age that they're at, and so you sort of know that there is no cavalry coming.
Yeah,
at least it felt that way, and it was just So then there were just going to those last like 2 or 3 episodes where it was just finally, it was like Data at the end of Generations, when they hit the Klingon ship that has their shield.
And he's like, yes.
And he goes, yes.
Yep.
That's how it felt. Well, especially the last episode.
Right.
So I don't want to, I think I'm slowing this down here, but I mean, it was an immersion. This was a very emotionally rocky show that was obviously designed, or season, and it was designed to be that way. And they knew what they were doing, and you took me through it, and I am exhausted now, and I enjoyed every moment of it ever after watching it. And the whole time I'm sitting there going, this is fan service. I see what you did there. But I'm here for it, and I want it. Just give it to me. I might have to turn out the lights and lock the door.
And you want to talk about like depressing and like there's no hope here. What about Raffi's storyline in season 3? Like, you get to she's like a drug addicted, like terrible user who's lost her entire family,
right.
And then like they just kind of forget about that for like 4 or 5 episodes, and then like they get to the end and like suddenly kiddo wants to go see grandma again. It's like, okay, that was a really
Well,
sudden.
she almost got a pass because of what, well, and then Worf leaked her combinations that no one could
Right,
know about because they were
right,
classified.
right.
So, I mean, that was really nice because she's been such a troubled character since and I like that there may be a Riker and her character as a spinoff. At least there's talk about that. I don't know if it's actually because I believe that
Riker or Worf?
or I meant to say Worf. Yeah, because I believe Michael Dorn has actually been has been pushing for that, for Worf to have his own show and all.
Well,
Anyway, so many
anyway.
good things. You had a list of things that you said there were like 3 things. Well, obviously one of those being the Borg.
Right.
That
Yeah. Okay. So now, if the very ending of Star Trek Picard didn't set up Star Trek Legacy, or what fans have been calling the show Star Trek Legacy, I don't know what does, because
right.
you've got Seven, who is now captain of the Titan. Raffi's her first
You
officer.
mean the Enterprise?
Well, right. I was getting to that, but Seven and Raffi, are they together? I mean, do you really want your captain and first officer boning when they're not on the
No,
bridge?
they're
I'm
not
just kind of
together.
curious.
They
Are
have
we
been.
sure? Because there's history there.
There is, but there's history with Picard um, and Beverly Crusher too, but it never really happened. No, I think at this point
I don't think that's the same thing.
they're broken up, and I feel like they're more friends than anything else now. And I
Sure.
really do feel like Terry Matalas tried to put some distance story wise between them in that respect.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I really want to see Star Trek Legacy, but there's a very big caveat to that. I want to see Star Trek Legacy with Captain Shaw, because Captain
Yes,
Shaw is the poo, and I loved his character, like his just absolute.
so easy to hate. It was
He was so
great.
easy to hate, but you know why he was so easy to hate? Because he was the new Captain Jellicoe, because he did
Yes,
not give a flying crap about all the exploits and all the superhero powers of the Star USS Enterprise. He's just there to get some stuff done. And like take care of his ship, and I'm totally there for that. I loved him, and they tried to kill him off at the end of season 9. And here's my theory: I think when they killed him off at the end of season 9, I think all the Borg cadets all gathered around him and injected him with some nanoprobes and like turned him into a Borg. And this all happened off camera, so you didn't see it. But they turned him into a Borg. They brought him back to life. And now that same guy who hated Picard because of Wolf 5359
359.
is now an ex-Borg himself, and he's got to freaking deal with that. And he's going to be really pissed off about it. And you know what? I like a pissed off Captain Shaw.
Yeah,
So that's my theory.
I don't think he'll be back. But
He
it is a
should
shame
come
that they
back.
killed his character off because
He really needs to come back.
he was such a good point of tension, and almost like it grounded the rest of it. When
It did. It really did.
Yeah.
You know what? He was Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder. Like that was his purpose there, was to be like,
Yes.
all
exactly.
this, all the,
To
you know,
be
everybody
irreverent
wants
about the history of the show, and to show that there are other
Right.
people and stuff. You know, for every Picard, there's 20 Jellicos and
Right.
Shaws. So I thought it was
Anyway.
interesting that, just as an aside, I don't remember what the show was, but it was another. I think it was a Terry Matalas show
Okay.
that he worked on. The actor that played Shaw was on as one of the main characters.
Oh yeah, absolutely it was. I don't remember. I
Yeah.
read that in an interview. I don't know
too.
what show it was, but yeah, I'm going to pay attention to where he goes after
Me too.
this, because
Yeah.
I would really love to see a Star Trek. I mean, honestly, this is like This is Star Trek Strange New Worlds all over again, because everybody lost their crap over the Strange New Worlds cast in season 2 of Discovery and begged CBS to make another series.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the exact same thing happening. Like everybody loves all these different characters, like the Geordi second generation. And I'm not sure I want to
They've
necessarily
definitely set up a romantic tension between Geordi's daughter, who is the ensign slash pilot of the Titan,
right,
and Picard's
and
son.
Jack.
And
Yeah.
Jack, yeah. So that I mean, that definitely has to be part of, if there is a
a Star Trek legacy.
Legacy.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to call it the next generation, and that doesn't make any sense.
And also, can you tell me what speaking of Jack being on the Titan / Enterprise, what
His
exactly is a
so
captain?
weird.
What exactly is a captain's
What is
counselor?
that?
What the frick is that?
I don't know.
You want me to be a science officer? Maybe I could be a pilot. Maybe I could be chief of security. No, I'm going to make you Deanna Troi too.
I like. I liked that the accent that you gave him basically turned him into Dick Van Dyke's character from Mary Poppins.
Right, right, Governor.
Governor.
Good point. But like, I just like what? Okay, we're gonna put that aside.
I know. I agree. I was thinking the same thing, and I could see you going there from a million miles away. Like, what is that?
What the hell is that? That's not a thing. That's like you just want to go up to 7 and say that's not a thing.
Also,
and like,
imagine being able to sit in the counselor's chair after having just come out of Starfleet Academy,
right on the bridge, like
and all the other. The crew of the Titan were already kind of like with him because he was putting them in danger, and now he's just auto upgraded.
Yeah, and like I want the first episode of Star Trek Legacy. I want Admiral Janeway to pop up on screen, be like, "Yo, Seven, what's up? Who the frick is that? And what's he doing sitting in that chair?"
Yeah.
Like, I just want that to be the first thing, and then like he gets sent down to like engineering to go clean some water.
Shut up, Wesley!
Crap. Right? It's just, yeah. Anyway. Okay. So that was point number 2. And really, Seven and Raffi were point number 3. I think really what it all boils down to is I want Captain Shaw back. I really want Captain Shaw to be in charge of the Titan, and like, just other. That was really kind of my thesis statement, was the Borg didn't have to be there. Raffi and Seven are together, but they're not. Captain Shaw back, and I really want Star Trek. Oh, and the end credit scene. Let's not forget that.
Oh, before we talk about that,
okay,
you were talking about the things that you potentially want for a next series.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I don't want, and that is I don't want the potentially extremely lazy writing potential of Jack to be used, because his superpower, if you want to call it that, they could use that in the way that I'm not going to give specific examples, but and you've seen this done in more than just Star Trek, where
his superpower does whatever the plot needs it to.
Exactly.
So he'll basically be the
he'll be Superman. He'll be
what's
Superman.
The Wakandan metal?
Vibranium.
He'll basically be the vibranium of the Star Trek universe, which is like, this is vibranium. It does whatever the plot needs it to.
Exactly.
Like, here's some medical beads. Here's a hologram. What do those two have in common with meteoric metal? We don't know, but that's what they do.
Right. Exactly. And that's I don't see.
I want to say that his power is now inert because the Borg Queen is dead.
Well, she even said that you'll be changed.
You'll be. I think she actually said you'll be like normal, right?
She said you'll be changed.
You'll be changed
forever,
okay.
Right? From and she meant from the experience of being in the collective. I mean, no different than in some ways how Picard was affected.
Maybe that's what she meant, but maybe that's not what. Maybe they'll say she meant something else when they go to write this new show, whichever whatever it may be. I just I'm nervous because I think if there was going to, I honestly think if there was going to be a Star Trek Legacy, they probably would have announced it by now. Like, when is Star Trek Day? Isn't there a Star Trek Day? Isn't that a thing?
Yes, but I don't know when.
It's not
It
May the
has to be.
4th, I know that. Um, but, like, I think that's a thing, and I think they had the first one, like, 2 years ago, and because I remember Wesley Crusher, Will Wheaton, hosted it,
Mm.
and, like, they had an orchestra out there to play all the different themes when they were, like, announcing all this
Oh,
thing.
speaking of that, how
Yeah.
awesome was it to have all just the little shots of the different themes, depending on the situation, like when they were at the, I guess it was episode 7, when they were at the Museum of Significant Starships.
Okay.
Like when they showed Voyager, they actually played a little bit of the Voyager theme.
Oh, yeah,
Just
yeah.
things like that. Just that, you're talking about Easter eggs. I mean, as you mentioned, this show was just so absolutely full of them. I mean, honestly, it also to me makes it rewatchable in a way,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think
especially
so.
season 3. Anyway, but yes. So going back to the different themes being played on Star Trek Day and what you were talking
Yeah.
about.
So I just kind of I like maybe they'll announce something then because if I remember
Oh,
correctly, Discovery was over for a few weeks when they finally announced Strange New Worlds, but that was also pandemic era, so that was also really weird. Like
mhm.
people really couldn't get together back then. So but like man, I really hope that I hope there is a Star Trek Legacy because I would like to see it, but at the same time, I want Captain Shaw there. One other a couple of other little if this were a review, I would call these test notes. But just like little things um Commander Data doing the trench run with the Enterprise, I thought was a little hokey, to be
Yes,
honest.
I was going to ask you about that.
Geordi absolutely doubting that an android can pilot
Right,
a starship through what is what is it with bad empires leaving alleyways to their
right. Or
vulnerable
just put it,
spots
making the
ship?
vulnerable spot. Granted, it was in the center, but of course, it also makes the entire ship fall apart
Right.
if
Like
it's
why
destroyed.
and why would you leave a hole big enough for the Enterprise? The Enterprise is not a small ship. Like
Although
it,
I loved that perspective shot of the Borg ship coming out of Jupiter,
yeah,
and the ominous like static thunder that was coming from it coming out, and like all just yeah. So
it was
but you do see
interesting.
this, the scale of also, don't let me forget, there is a scene that I want to mention that I just thought was masterful in terms of the cinematography.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, I agree. That was hokey, but it's also, I supposedly that is a little bit of a love note to Star Wars. So I think that
Okay,
was
well that's
purposeful.
fair. That's fair. Okay. Well in that case, yeah, that would be a pretty direct tie
Hmm.
in between the two. Like I think generally like story wise, oh, by the way, Ensign Rowe not necessarily dead. No body, no dead. That's what
Mm.
I'm saying. They could have beamed her out of there real quick, oh, she's going after our nacelle.
Well, I mean,
Beam her out
you
real
didn't
quick.
say see what's her name from the, she was the admiral, but that got killed, that we enjoyed from
We
Best of
saw
Both
her
Worlds.
got shot twice on screen. I mean, that's pretty darn
I'm
dead.
just saying you can say that about just about any character, including Shaw, I guess.
Yeah, we
Uh,
never actually did see Shaw die, although he did lean his head back and his eyes were stuck open. And so,
right.
yeah, I think we pretty much did see him die, but I still think that they could have made him a Borg. Um, and I think that's a very viable
All right.
possibility.
Here's the small thing that I noticed talking about notes, right? And I know
Yeah,
you had a few more, but
I don't, but go ahead.
oh, okay. So I
Oh,
enjoy,
I do have one more. I do have one more. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
I I did enjoy to a point the banter between Worf and Riker.
Yeah,
In terms of,
yeah.
but it's like 20 to 30% too much. It felt just a little forced.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the innuendo stuff made me laugh, like the threesome comment and the like. Do you even hear yourself?
Right. Right. Yeah, no, I did like
But
that.
it did. It was just like, okay, or I don't know. Some of
Oh,
that could just be due to the
two
fact
notes.
that not the same writers, and they haven't really done anything together in such a long time. They it just takes a while to develop that chemistry again.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of Worf, one of my notes, and you know what? Can I just say, thank God they finally acknowledged that that Klingons are physically stronger
Yes. Oh,
than humans with the
with the
sword.
sword. Yes.
Like
I had
they
no
went
idea it
through
was that heavy.
7 seasons of Star Trek. They didn't even bother to mention anything like that. It was just a throwaway line, but it was also just like, yes, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Klingons do actually kick some butt. Like humans really should not be able to fight them hand to hand, and
And
yet
just the
here we
fact that he
are.
had the face the whole time that he said swords are fun.
Yeah, swords are more fun. Yeah. Well, it's also like I think that also might be a nod to Star Trek, with Obi-Wan
Star
using
Wars,
the
you mean? Yeah.
blaster, so uncivilized,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
For sure. And just the
yeah.
change in Worf's character with his I guess you'd call it pacifism, but his like Zen, it's like Zen Worf. And the
Well,
fact that
I think Worf was actually kind of like the new Elnor in this particular
yeah,
episode.
but there's also okay. I so the character that's basically this like what am I trying to say, paradigm or like this one kind of character that's been in a ton of Asian like Chinese martial art
Trope.
movies. The trope, there we go. It's the old wise kung fu teacher that has the
Pacifist
white hair
warrior
in the
guy.
bun.
Yeah.
Take this pebble from my hand or grasshopper from my hand, and anyway, and
Yeah.
the long Fu Manchu that he can go,
Yeah.
with. That was Worf.
That was Worf.
He
That
even
was
had,
Worf.
and he had like the sort of vaguely Asian philosophy about things, and the fact that he would, anyway, just about meditation and things like that. There were it felt like just a little bit of that. Like old Worf had become that guy basically.
The Zen master who
The Zen
now
master,
walks
yes.
the earth.
Yes.
But no, I dug that, and I kind of thought that Worf moving into Section 31 was
Oh,
a
it makes
pretty
so much
natural
sense.
evolution
Yeah.
of his
Mhm.
character. So that was very sweet. Yeah, I would actually like to see, and see that's the thing is I would like to see Raffi go back to Section
Me
31,
too. Yeah.
and maybe Seven become the first officer for Captain Shaw, who's now an ex-Borg, to take over in Star Trek Legacy. See, I've just solved the problem right there. So I hope you're
There you
paying
go.
attention. Um,
Take notes there, Paramount.
One other thing, and this actually kind of goes back to Star Trek Insurrection. Um, one of the problems with follow-up movies making up kind of their own Star Trek physics is it makes you ask the question, why didn't they do that sooner?
Before. Mm.
So like Star Trek Insurrection, they're trying to get Picard out of the big collector deal, and they're like, well, if we beam him out from in between the shield generators, that could work. And we're like, well, yeah, I can think of like 20 situations that would have been really handy information. But this time around, in like the second or the third episode, where the Titan zips in and breaks the tractor beam by coming out of warp in between the two ships. Like, I could think of a lot of different times that would have been really good information. And
nice thing about writing for a fictional universe.
I know, but it's just like, not to mention, how do you come out of warp with that kind of precision? I mean, okay, I grant it. It's a LaForge at the helm. I briefly forgot what Georgie's last name was. It's a LaForge at the helm. So there you go. But like, that's some precision right there. You're coming out of warp.
Reason he got moved to engineering too. So maybe he wasn't the best helmsman.
Maybe, but his daughter apparently is.
She's a good pilot. I mean, they made that reference, and then his other daughter's the engineer. By the way, one of those two is actually his LeVar Burton's real daughter.
Was it?
Yeah, the one that he came on board with.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. But
and
not
he
Sydney, the other
those
one.
two names in. Now I'm just talking about Easter eggs, or not really Easter eggs, but he referenced those in the last episode or the last two. When it was Picard with his beard in his vineyard, and Geordi comes to visit him, and he asks about his
Oh,
family,
I think I did see that.
He mentions those two daughters, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. So
too bad we didn't see Leah Brahms. Just saying, would have been nice.
That would have just been creepy, stalker Geordi.
No, that's who he's married to.
What?
in All Good
Really?
Things. He says Leah's with the girls or something like that. Yeah, that's who he
I
got married
did
to.
not know that.
So
Oh,
not
interesting.
only like Jordy's a homewrecker, folks. I hate to tell you, and that is canon.
Huh. Interesting. So I was going to ask you because I feel like, I mean, I could talk about this forever, but I wanted
Oh
to
yeah,
ask you
yeah.
maybe, and I'm sure you
We
have.
should start wrapping up.
Yeah. So I mentioned that I had what I would call maybe my favorite scene in terms of cinematography, and
Okay, yeah.
and I'm not a film buff in that way. Like it's not like I talk about color palettes and
Right.
Kurosawa films and things.
Yeah, it's not like you're a designer or anything.
Right. Well, so but I did appreciate it for. But maybe you want me to mention mine first, or would you like to mention yours first?
I don't have one, so go
Okay.
ahead.
No, I thought that the scene where it's actually after that, it's basically the end, but before they go to the card table, which we can also talk about.
Okay.
But when they're shutting down the Enterprise D, after having done, it's like I guess it says like a year later, then it shows the Enterprise D on one of those decks back at the museum,
At the museum, yeah.
and I know it's Geordi, and I think it's Riker. It's either Geordi or Picard.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember.
So you have the deck of the Enterprise, shown from that, like, or the bridge of the Enterprise shown from basically if you were the screen looking at it, and then you have either Picard or Riker and Geordi basically at the turbo lift. And actually, I remember Picard being there because he leaned on basically where the tactical station is, and then they walk back, and they kind of reminisce for a minute, and then they say something, and then they initiate the shutdown sequence, and the way they're backlit by the turbo booth or by the turbo lift as the lights go down on the bridge, and you're left with just that. It's like, and they walk through the door, and it's just, it's such a. I almost want to see if like somewhere in the back in the canon of the show where maybe they've turned it on like that, and or they've done something like if that was referencing in another scene, but just the lights going down, and then you have that focal point of them walking through, to the turbo lift doors, and it closing, and then it just becomes completely dim.
Okay.
And it's such a really nicely like set up scene, so thoughtful, so purposeful.
It's a nice bookmark. It's a nice
exactly.
bookend. It's a nice way to wrap a bow on. See, I thought you were going to go with like the Enterprise zooming down into the middle of the Borg cube, like right above the Borg Queen, and beaming out all the people, like when Troy has her. Troy is also like the vibranium of Star Trek. She does whatever the plot needs her to, where she like takes over and like she like kind of zooms the ship down to like right above where they're standing, and like I thought that was a pretty cool SFX.
I think that it is canon now, and it was actually. Have you ever read Imzadi, the book?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so that's the story of
I'll stop you right there. I have never read anything Star Trek or Star Wars or Stargate.
Back in the 90s, I was a huge like Star Trek fiction consumer, and I read a little Star Wars too. But anyway, so in Imzadi, they can actually telepathically connect.
Of course,
like if he thinks about her, anyway. So there is an explanation for why. I mean, it's not like they just added that in at the last second.
Oh no, I know they needed a way for her to find them, and that's I saw it coming from a mile away.
Because they're bonded. I mean, Imzadi means like they're basically. I guess it's what happens when a Beta Z and another Beta Z, they're beloved. They like that they're soulmates. Like they become soulmates, and they become telepathically connected. So
I guess, but okay. No, I mean. I'll be straight up with you. When I was a kid, my favorite author was the one who wrote the Star Wars novel where Chewbacca died. I couldn't even be bothered to read that one. So it was. I've never read any of their stuff, but no, I mean it's fine. Like they needed a way to get them out, and I thought
it shows you how big of a nerd I am. I'm like, I read the books.
We earn it. I mean, this is not benefit of the jocks show. Like this is benefit of the nerds. Anyway.
I wear it proudly. I'm fine with it.
Absolutely. I wave my dude.
I know exactly.
I mean, come on.
So you mentioned, and I think this is kind of where we can close it. But I mean, we talked about Easter eggs. We've talked about how referencing past episodes of things, or and things, and even in another series. But yes, the completion basically of the scene from it's not the best of both worlds. What's the last episode, 2 episodes?
All Good Things.
All Good Things. Yes.
Yeah.
Which of course we know must come to an end. That's
yeah. We got to talk about this. Of course, we can't not talk about this.
Picard actually talks about in the last episode of Picard he talks to Jack about having to
not Picard. You said Picard. You meant Q. But anyway.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm talking.
Then I'm sorry, I interrupted
Picard
you, and I'm a dick. Go ahead.
Picard talks to Jack when they're in the Borg hive mind, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, okay.
About how he pushed people away, and always kept people at a distance, he never had a family, kept people at a distance, and it wasn't until he got older that he started letting people that served under him, or that he served with, like, into his life. And that really is a reference to that last scene of
the fact that he was diddling Beverly. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway,
the last scene on the last episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, All Good Things, where he finally plays poker with the crew, right? So that's really what he's talking about. And then, but you never really saw him. You just kind of saw him get dealt in. This time you actually got to see him play poker with them, and it was like a bookend to a bookend.
Yeah.
They kind of just brought everything together, and I love that they also used the original Jerry Goldsmith music for the last scene. For the end credits. Oh, so wonderful.
It was really good. But there was one more scene after those credits, and I think this is where we need to wrap this up, where Jack, with his newly appointed captain's counselor BS, that I think he went back to his quarters to, like, read a book to figure out what the hell a captain's counselor is. That's my working theory. Or he went back to his quarters to write the book about what a captain's counselor is, because it's never happened before. So someone's got to write the damn thing.
Captain's special counselor?
Something like it was stupid. It was just really stupid.
Like, what does that mean?
And what did Seven say?
What
did Seven say when she wanted to make the ship go? What did she say?
She didn't say anything.
They copped it out. That was kind of crap there.
Well,
but
that's setting up the next. That's so that people will be anticipating.
Yeah, I know.
Because that they will show that they will use that scene, even if they recreate it.
Very
as
possibly.
the beginning.
But did you see the trailer for season 2 of Strange New Worlds?
No.
Oh my God, you didn't?
Or maybe I did.
Oh my God. So they're showing a preview of Strange New Worlds, and Spock sits down in the captain's chair.
Oh yes, I did see this.
And
Take
everyone's
me where
like,
I want to go, or something.
What's your thing gonna be? It's you have to have a thing. You have to say a thing. And he's like, I want the ship to go now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So in my mind, I'm picturing 7 of 9 saying, I want the ship to go now.
No.
Anyway, okay, so the final scene, Jack is back in his quarters trying to figure out what the hell his job is.
And Q, yes.
And Q shows up. Old Q, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought you were dead. I'm not dead because I'm far too valuable in IP. Anyway,
right, exactly.
So he
John
shows
Delancey
up.
was like, I'll have this written into my contract.
Yeah.
If I'm going to reappear.
So he shows up, and he definitely teases, like, if there is a Star Trek Legacy, if Jack is in it, then Q is going to be a part of that. Now, here's my last thing. This is my last note about the show. If they bring Q back for Star Trek Legacy or whatever, I want fun Q. I don't want season 2 Q.
Well, yeah, I think you'll get fun Q.
Do you think? Because I thought we would get that in season 2, and we got boring, like, I'm a mean Q because I'm dying. I want a fun Q.
Well, he was insane Q, basically, is what it appeared to be.
I don't care. I don't care what the reason was.
But, okay, again.
Wait, you're telling me he was sane during Star Trek?
He was just Q.
That's
that
not
was fun
saying
cue.
that was fun cue. That's what I want.
I think the difference
I
would
want
be
mariachi cue.
always mariachi cue. What if it was?
Yep,
Cue's
exactly.
back again.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, I think it just goes back to our original conversation about the differences between the who's doing the creative part of it.
Yeah.
Who has creative control, and it's Terry Matalas. So
I'm pretty sure that we've just decided that Alex Kurtzman is so freaking fired at this point.
Be gone, Kurtzman.
Like, serious. I hope he was standing next to Eleanor on that ship when it flew up. It's gonna be okay, Eleanor.
Well, no, I think he still has had input on Discovery, which is why it'll be weird.
It's the last episode of Discovery. It's the last season of Discovery.
That's what
and
I'm
then
saying.
they're gonna bring in Star Trek Academy, where the future
What's her name?
Star Trek
Tilly will be.
Tilly is definitely going to be a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But so they're going to bring back the Academy, and like they're going to reopen Starfleet Academy for the first time and since the burn, which the burn was so stupid. Anyway,
I think it's all agreed. But
yeah,
I mean,
so
it happens.
I think what we can agree with, and I think this is the good way to end the show, is by saying that Star Trek, like the first season of Star Trek Discovery, was kind of cool, and I think mostly because it was novel, and like once it got into its thing, they kind of like people started getting a lot less forgiving about like storylines and stuff like that.
Right.
Season 2 is good because it brought us Strange New Worlds, but that's the only reason. But I think it's fair to agree that right now Star Trek is on its way back up.
So yes, except I know that first of all, from what I've heard, Picard was extremely expensive this third season.
I don't doubt it.
The actors that were involved and the fact that there was a lot of CGI and so this is like the pushback against the fact that or against Legacy being possibly made. I still think it will be.
I think so too.
But Paramount has been wanting to cut back on, number one, the amount. They don't want to have any more than like 3 concurrent Star Trek series going on at one time.
Okay, you can get rid of Lower Decks.
Right. So, well, no, Lower Decks is. You need to watch Lower Decks. But
anyway,
no,
I
don't. But so it getting made, Legacy rather. There's some chance that it might not, and I would much rather see Legacy than Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, but the way things are going right now, Picard is ending. That could be replaced by Legacy. And Discovery is ending. That could be replaced by Academy. So, I mean, you still only have the 3 shows because you cannot get rid of Strange New Worlds because Strange New Worlds is the best Star Trek on TV right now.
I think they count both Prodigy and the other cartoon show.
Cancel those 2. That's fine.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, Prodigy is very enjoyable. And they really do their homework. It takes place in, I don't think it's the Delta Quadrant, but it's, again, far away. The fact that it does have Janeway in it with the original, and other pieces of the cast, like Chakotay in it, like, it's enjoyable, and it brings a new generation into Star Trek. So we're not all, like, basically boomers watching, and we're the only audience when it's, you need that. And that's why I like Prodigy being around. I don't know how... I would venture to guess that, like, even though it's on Nickelodeon, like 60 to 70% of the audience is probably people like you and me. But who knows?
Oh, absolutely, not me. But yeah, you definitely.
In terms of being the hardcore Star Trek fans.
Oh, right. And I don't even think I'm all that hardcore Star Trek fan, honestly. I think if there's anything that this particular episode of the podcast has revealed, it is that I am not a hardcore Star Trek fan. But that being said, we'll see. At this point, we just kind of have to wait and see if there is a Star Trek Day. I think there should be. And then we'll probably find out then whether or not Legacy is going to happen. And if it does, that'll be great. And if it doesn't, I guess that's fine. It's not like there's not other stuff to watch. But anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because we've gone a lot longer than I thought we were going to go, actually, to be honest.
I told you.
This is a very easy show to this could go on forever if we wanted to. And don't even get me started on like a Stargate show, because there's rumors happening around that too. If you haven't seen,
I have not.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Well, because Amazon owns the rights, and so like
That's right.
Amazon Studios is like looking into making a movie and or TV series, and they're not bringing back the original producer, so no Joe Malazzi, unfortunately. So that's making me angry. But anyway, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this show up. Did you have any final thoughts before we do the outro, or?
So just know that and you kind of explained this at the beginning, but for anyone maybe who just happened to catch this as maybe you were searching on YouTube
for Star Trek Picard or
for
whatever.
Star Trek Picard something,
yeah,
and you just happened to come across our this episode. This is we're definitely more in this slot for an example is normally reserved for interviewing someone who's a creator, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a little bit of I'm a writer, somebody that's a creative. I think that's actually what I should have said.
Yeah. That's a
creative, and other things like that. But so this is definitely not the norm for us. But I've had a good time. So yeah, if this is your first time watching us, don't be shy to check out. Like if you like the dynamic between Adam and I, check out some of our other content too, because we do some. Not so much of this kind of stuff, but even in our reviews that we do of a broad spectrum of tech and stuff surrounding that. If you enjoyed this particular episode, I think you'll find some little nuggets in there that you might like as well.
So, definitely.
Like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff that he's going to be telling you, or he's going to be telling you.
Yeah, I'm over here somewhere. I'm over here, standing next to Elnor. Anyway, okay, so no, that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast, this special edition, Picard edition of the podcast. Please consider subscribing to this podcast if you enjoyed it, and if you really enjoyed it, I would love it if you would write a review for the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click that subscribe button so you can be notified of new episodes and reviews as they drop. And if you want some early access, jump onto that Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the Doud. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes and for coming on and talking all about Star Trek Picard with me. But most of all, and as always, I would like to thank you for listening and for giving us the benefit of the Doud.